first degree in public administration was what I studied in Madonna University. I didn't want to study pub admin. I wanted to study accountancy, but for some reason I landed in pub admin. And so once I was done with pub admin, I got a job in the bank. I worked in the bank, Access Bank. And then I moved on to work in a construction firm in Nigeria for about 3 years, but I was not content. It was so boring for me. I've always loved accounting. And so I quit my job, and I must just put in here that God has blessed me with a very supportive husband, and I'm very passionate about, promoting women and, encouraging spouses to also support their spouses, because that's where strength is. We're supposed to raise each other up. That's exactly what it is. And that's what I've enjoyed in my life. And so my spouse had told me, quit that job and chase your dreams. And so that was what I did. I quit the job and I started school all over again. And at this time, I had 2 young kids at the time. And so I started ACCA from the scratch, accounting. Tony was my lecturer. I was one of the lecturers that I had at the time. And it was very hectic for me, between school drop-off and coming home, to take care of the home. I had no house help, so it was all me. I did everything from the scratch. I woke up at night to read. It was very stressful for me, those 2 years, but I completed my ACCA in 2 years. And then I heard about the Canada Immigration Express Entry Program, and I'm like, okay, why not? And so we started to do that process. And I realized that at that time, CPA Ontario had an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with ACCA. And so with my ACCA, all I needed to do was CPA, was Canadian tax. And then I applied for CPA Ontario. So that was what I did from Nigeria. I actually applied for CPA Ontario from Nigeria once I got my ACCA, my ACCA was in 2018, January. And so I arrived in Canada in July of 2018. I didn't know anybody in Canada when we arrived. We landed in an Airbnb because we didn't know anybody. My kids were 4 and 6. I have 2 kids. They were 4 and 6. And so we trekked around Canada. But before I came, I always used to tell people that when I was in Nigeria, my body was in Nigeria, but my spirit was already in Canada. It was roaming the streets of Canada already. So I had done so much research. I had done so much reading. I did a lot of pre-arrival services, which I'll be talking about today. And so once I arrived in Canada, I knew what I was going to do. From the very next or 2 days after I arrived, I started to visit recruiters, and that was how I landed a job in 1 month of my arrival in Canada.
Wow.
And so it was quite, and in my profession, I would mention, it was quite, I think it's a lot to do with your mindset. When you're coming, if you stay focused on what you want to get and what is acceptable and what is not, because there's a lot of distractions. You can get carried away and you're like, okay, I just want to start making money now. But if you stay focused on what you want to get in your career, in your field, you're able to do that. And so that was how I got my CPA in December of 2018. And it's been an enjoyable story since I arrived in Canada. Yes.
Oh, great. So by the way, I hope you people can see that all our certifications, she actually got it from Nigeria. I mean, she got it while she was still in Nigeria, not necessarily because when she traveled or she had to travel out to get the certification. And I intentionally made her give more clarity on that to let you know that, trust me, if you're not doing it, it's because you don't want to. You actually have no excuse, no matter what. And I will always say that probably it's not really your dream, because when you really want something, you really go for it. And that's something I admire about her. And trust me, for the people that are on this call, if you have just one child, not to talk about 2, I think you will appreciate our journey so far. And our journey is just the definition of grit, tenacity, and determination. And it's a story that I admire so much. So thank you, very much. I know someone sent a question on the Q&A. I think the person talked about he had some certification and he was trying to understand whether he has a chance I think with the little introduction she has given, you know that you have all the chances in the world right now. The person is based in Ghana, so I believe that probably you wrote their own exam that makes them a chartered accountant, So bottom line, you have all the chances and you have what it takes to, start your journey per se. And so yeah, that's correct. So I think I will ask you more specific questions. I'm trying to get my question out, and I don't know where I kept it again. So just give me a minute though. Good. I think I've seen my question. Please just a minute. Okay. Yeah, I've seen my question. So what are do you think there are good job prospects for finance professionals in Canada? Especially for individuals coming from Africa. Also put into consideration that most times they have larger companies in Canada. So I've seen instances like right now that I'm in US, when we even get to make examples in class, they're talking about businesses in millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And it's not common for you to see those size of companies, that we have in Nigeria, in Africa. So do you think there are prospects for finance professionals? Do you think they are in need of finance professionals as well? Yeah.
There will always be need for finance professionals because every business needs their books to be balanced. And so finance is very big here in Canada. And different industries employ finance professionals. Like if you think about it, there's no business that doesn't need a finance professional. And so you can work in manufacturing. Manufacturing is very big in Canada. In Ontario, it's our biggest industry is the finance industry, which is banks. So financial institutions that offer insurance services or that offer financial advisory to clients. It's very big also. So the possibilities for finance professional is very broad. Now, Canada is a very large country. It's the second largest country in the world. And so we have about 12 provinces in Canada. Depending on which province you find yourself, there will be different needs for finance professionals. So provinces would need more finance professionals than others. I'm currently in Ontario. Ontario is almost like the commercial city. It's like Lagos of Nigeria. And so finance professionals are needed in Ontario, but not just Ontario, even other provinces, just because by definition, you would always need somebody to balance your book. So good prospect for someone who is in the finance field, yeah.
Okay, so someone is asking, how easy is it to convert from ICANN to CPA in Canada? So ICANN is the accounting professional body in Nigeria. Yeah.
Yeah, so it depends. The way ICANN is structured, there's just one ICANN in the whole of Nigeria. But the way Canada CPA is structured, there's different provinces have different requirements to convert your international designation to their CPA. So you have CPA Ontario. So I'm a member of CPA Ontario and also a member of CPA Canada. All of the different provinces have, all of the different provinces report into CPA Canada. And then each province has their own requirement. So I'm only conversant with the requirement for CPA Ontario because that's the body that I'm a member of. And so CPA Ontario, for example, if you wanted to convert your ICANN, you will need to write some exams, fewer than if you were starting from the scratch in your accountancy profession. So you will skip some levels, and then you would need to, of course, do your 3 years practical experience, which I think if you've already had in Nigeria, it would be recognized. And then you would have to do some exams also, but fewer exams than whoever is starting from the scratch. And you can also apply for CPA Ontario from Nigeria, but you would have to show that you either are planning to move to Canada, so you've applied or you're in that process, or you're moving because you've already gotten your approval, or you're in Canada because you're not able to write CPA Ontario exam from outside of Canada. You have to write it within Canada. Yeah, so But the good thing is that all this information is available on the individual websites of the different CPA provinces. So all you need to do is just Google the province that you're interested in. Go to, for example, CPA British Columbia. If you Google that, you would see converting your international designation to CPA British Columbia. It will bring out all the requirements of what you need to do. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. I think that answers the question here that someone has, and he was saying, I think I have two questions for you. So now, is CPA Canada more superior than CPA Ontario? And do I have to first have CPA Canada before I can have CPA Ontario? I think those are my own questions. Then someone is also asking if we increase his or her chances of getting a job in Canada, or the person should just start CPA instead from Nigeria.
Okay, so a couple of questions in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so CPA Canada is a governing body of all the CPA provinces. So it's not a separate body on its own. All the other provinces report into CPA Canada. About probably last month or so, we got an email from CPA Ontario saying they are planning on pulling out from CPA Canada in like a year or two. So CPA Ontario wants to be separate on their own. Before that, or currently even now, all CPA provinces report into CPA Canada. So CPA Canada is not a separate body in itself. Once you become a member of any CPA province, you are automatically a member of CPA Canada. The only thing that the only point where you see CPA Canada is when you're about to pay your dues, because you pay dues for CPA Canada and you pay dues for CPA of that province. That's the only point where you see the difference. Yeah, and then the question about if I can get you a job. I've had colleagues in my workplace that came from India, and they were able to, they have the Chartered Accountancy Professional designation from India. They were able to get into finance, the finance jobs while they were working on their CPA. So you will see resumes like CPA in progress, or working on CPA designation, and even you would see some job postings that has currently working on CPA designation, not necessarily that you already have CPA. So CPA is an added bonus for a finance professional in Canada, of course, because that's how to distinguish yourself in the market as an accountant, especially if you're looking at managerial positions. You want to consider getting your CPA, but it doesn't necessarily mean you won't be able to get a job if you don't have CPA. It's just to help you grow faster if you have CPA.
So is it every work experience that counts in Canada? Or there are specific organizations that when you work with, it counts, or, beyond that?
Yeah. So if there's something, that answer is twofold, actually. There's something that is called the Canadian experience, in quotes.
Okay.
So whereby if you come into Canada with your foreign experience, sometimes it's challenging for you to get your foot into the door. And there's different approaches or strategies that you can use to get your foot into the door, which I don't know if you're getting to that question, but I can highlight it or speak about it later. So once you're able to get your foot into the door, the experience you have, if it's in finance, and that's why I'm saying you should patiently wait to get your finance job as against working somewhere else, for example, like in a store. I know you must put food on the table. Canada is a very expensive country. And so sometimes, people are impatient, and then they go and they get this side jobs, to keep body and soul together. But it's very easy for you to get lost in that, in that industry. And because Canada is very different from Africa, where artisans or like tradespeople, like carpenters or like plumbers, they earn almost what you earn as a professional accountant, or even more. So it's not necessarily what your career is really. It's a completely different system. So you can get lost and just stay where you are, because what's the difference between what I'm earning and what an accountant is earning? But if you want to grow in your career path, then you want to focus on that part, because if you have an experience that is different from different from your career as an accountant, it's difficult for you to put that on your resume. And every experience or every period you've spent in your finance career counts, right? So you want to be able to explain that I followed this pathway and I followed this trajectory, and this is where it's leading me through, because they would always ask you, what have you been doing? Every space or every gap in your career or on your resume has to be explained. Like, what have you been doing? What were you doing in that period? So you want to make sure that you're within finance. Or if you just have to do a survival job, as they call it here, then you're not being carried away by it. You're still working to get your foot into the finance industry.
Oh, great. Thank you for your very detailed response. Guys, I'm still expecting your questions. You're not asking questions. As I said, we want to answer your questions and not the questions that we think you have. Although we came up with some of those questions already. Anyway, let me just say this out there. What are the cultural nuances or work environment differences should African finance professionals be aware of when transitioning to Canada?
One of the one that was a cultural shock for me was soft skills. And by soft skills, I mean being able to interact with people, like your interpersonal skills. Like it's something very simple as small talk in the coffee room, or small talk with your colleagues. As small as it, or as insignificant as we see it, it can push you through levels if you're able to interact with people. And I think that was a shock for me, because of course, in Nigeria, you just mind your business. What are you here to do? You're just here to do your work and go home. Why do I need to tell you about my weekend? But
Absolutely.
You see, when you're speaking to your supervisor, they're like, what did you do for the weekend? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, am I supposed to do something for the weekend? Like, why do I'm not even in the mood of talking, but that's the culture here, is soft skills. So you'll find that when you go for interviews, they are more towards your soft skills. Like, how would you integrate into the team? Are you fit for the team? They are more in that angle, technical, and if you think about it, anybody can actually learn technical skills, right?
Very true.
That personal relationship between you and your colleagues, or you and your clients, or you and your customers that's the ultimate, of knowing someone who will be able to fit into a particular team. And so soft skills that's one is very different between our way of doing things in Nigeria. I'm not sure what other African countries, but in Nigeria, compared to Canada. And then communication also is very big here. And especially now that most offices have gone remote, because for me, for example, I work hybrid and I only go into the office once a week. So now that we're hybrid, there's a lot of communication technology. And I know in Africa, we're not lost on that, but there's a lot more communication I find that we do by emails, by other platforms where you exchange information like Microsoft Teams. And there's a lot of softwares also here. I can't really specifically say which software. Different companies have their different software. Which one is bigger? I don't know. There's different ones, but that's the other thing. And as a finance professional, you want to be very big on Excel. Advanced Excel skills is very key. Being able to do like pivot table, being able to do all your XLOOKUP, all those types of things, because you always deal with a lot of data. It's a lot of reporting. That is very organized. That's something that you want to have on your resume. And it's not enough to just have things on your resume. You have to make sure whatever you're claiming on your resume, you're actually able to deliver, right? Really, when we talk of the African background, it doesn't necessarily have to do with where you come from. It's, are you able to deliver? That's what it is, really. So if you go for an interview, you want to be confident to be able to tell them that this is what I've done in the past and this is how I'm able to translate my skills to your organization to help. That's what you want to show. So it's not necessarily where you come from. Nobody's really Canada is a multicultural country. It's an immigrant nation, actually.
Yes, it is.
So you have to just distinguish yourself. Don't limit yourself by where you came from or anything like that. Speak up if there's ever anything, you speak up. If anybody is ever making you feel differently, you speak up. It's so important,
Yeah. Thank you very much. People are having many questions now. They are sending it in. So I'll take these questions. This person is saying, are there any sites? Jonathan, rather, I can see your name. Jonathan is asking if there are any sites we can that you can use to access some finance jobs in Canada from Ghana. Do you have, especially let's say remote job? What do you think? Do they exist in Canada? And are there
Um,
specific sites for that?
well, the only site I know about where you're able to, well, let me not say the only site, there's different sites, right? But
Yes.
the one for the government of Canada is called Job Bank. And so
Okay.
in Job Bank, you're able to see all the jobs that are being posted.
Okay.
Now, there's something on the immigration side that will quickly just
Mm.
throw in. Um, in Canada, there's something that is called the labor market impact assessment. That's
Okay.
that's that's LMIA, that's the acronym, is carried out each time a company wants to recruit a foreign national to work for them in Canada. Now,
Mm.
what that does is we are trying to make sure that there's nobody in Canada that you cannot hire, and that's the reason you're going out. So your labor market impact assessment is going to entail you advertising the job position for a period of 3 months on three
Yeah.
different boards, right? And
Mm.
then offering the same salary that you offer a Canadian citizen or a Canadian permanent resident for that role before you offer
Mm.
it to a foreign person, right? Just to be sure that you couldn't find somebody in Canada, that's why you're going out, right? So
Mm.
for finance, I find that not too many, at least from what I've heard, not too many finance professionals are being hired from abroad just
Yeah.
because finance market in Canada is already enough to be able to be
Mm.
filled. I don't know if it makes sense,
It
but
makes
if you,
sense.
yeah. So if you think of other professions like IT, for example, IT
Mm.
is very big.
Mm. Okay, guys, can you hear me? I need to be sure if it's my internet or it's in. Okay, your internet skipped a little. Continue. We can hear you. You're back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that okay? Can you
It
hear me
skipped.
now?
Yes, I can. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, yeah. So like more technical jobs that are
Mm.
specialized. Those
Mm.
are the kind of, for example, aeronautic engineer. Those types of jobs that are not very common, not easy to
Mm.
find someone to fill that job, are the kind of jobs where they can hire people from outside Canada outside Canada into Canada to come and work in Canada.
Yeah.
So, but for finance, a lot of people do finance. Even people that people that live here in Canada who are either citizens or PR go into finance, right? So it will be challenging for a company to prove that they were not able to find someone to fill
Someone.
that role in Canada,
Mm.
and that's the reason they went out. So
Yeah,
that's
they could say it's because of the pay. They want to give a lower pay. And I'm sure that whatever pay they will be offering someone based in Canada will be based on the standard of living, metrics there. So which makes it more expensive for them,
yeah, but that's the
you
thing.
know.
They can't offer a lower pay. You have to
Yes,
offer the
that's what
same
I'm
amount.
saying.
Yeah.
And so my point is that, but it's possible for them to get a foreigner outside of Canada that will receive a lower pay because their own standard of living is not as high as Canada. That's just the
Exactly.
point I'm trying to make. But I understand what you're trying to say. There's no huge market for remote work from
Mhm.
Canada. That's what you're trying to say in essence. Let me move to the other one. Someone is saying that does Canada allow dependents like the UK, please? So how were you able to move with you and your family? I think that's what the person is trying to say in essence.
Right. Just before I move to that point, I just wanted to chip in something to say because there
Yes,
has
please.
been a changing landscape of how work is now with all the remote
Mm,
work. It might be
mm,
different, right? Some companies might
mm,
be able to hire someone who is outside Canada, but still they have to prove what I just submitted. So why not? You can try to see if it's something that you can get. There's a lot of different job boards like Indeed that post jobs all the time. Some of them would even post to say foreign nationals can apply. So that's something you should also look out for, so you don't stress yourself, because I also applied a lot when I was in Nigeria. I applied a lot for a job, and I actually got one that was going to interview me, but they needed me to be in Canada to do the interview. And so I that was how I missed out on that one. They said when you come, you can do the interview, right? So you can try. There's no harm in trying. You never can tell. Just try. What do you have to lose, right?
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they were asking me about the immigration with dependents. So Canada's immigration system mostly encourages people to come with their dependents, and your dependent is your immediate family member. That's your spouse and your children, right? So even with student visa, you're able to come with your spouse. Your spouse will be on open work permit and your children will be on study permit. That's for the student visa. If you ever get a work permit to come to Canada, you can also come with your spouse. Your spouse will get an open work permit to work. Even if your work permit is job specific, your spouse will get an open work permit. If you come through express entry or provincial nomination PR to come directly as a permanent resident, of course, your entire family are going to be PRs at the same time as you, the principal applicants. So Canada always encourages people to come with their family because they believe in that integration, for the sanity and the comfort and the mental health of an immigrant. You're already operating your entire life, so they want you to be comfortable as much as possible, and that's why they encourage people to come with their families, their immediate family.
Yeah, that's correct. Another question, someone that have BS in accounting and still writing ICANN, what step can the person do to get a finance job? Do you also need a proof of fund to travel with family when you get the job? I don't know at what point you joined this call, but I think let me make something clear. Before you can say you want to get a Canadian job, she made mention of something. It's either you have proof that you'll soon be in Canada, or you've started an application, or you've even gotten your visa and you're about to be on your way. Is that correct? Please,
Yeah.
Ivy, I think I need you to lay that foundation, like just give a summary, because I know you've done that already, but I don't know where this person, connected. Then the person is now talking about proof of fund. I'm sure that this has to do with the immigration process, so you can speak more to that.
Okay, sure. So applicants who want to apply to CPA Ontario, and remember, I'm using CPA Ontario as an example because that's the one I'm conversant with. I'm not conversant with other provinces. They might have their own requirements. So for CPA Ontario, if someone wants to apply to CPA Ontario, they should either be residing in Canada, moving to Canada, or in the process of immigrating to Ontario. So it's threefold. Either you're living here, or you already are in the process of coming, or you've already gotten your papers. So you've gotten your landing papers already. You can submit that as a proof, because of course you have to prove that you're coming here, right? Or you're in the process of immigrating to Ontario. You can also apply. But you cannot apply if you're a resident of Nigeria who has no intention of coming to reside in Canada, because you need to provide supporting documentation for your application.
Okay. Okay, so what about the one for proof of fund? Yeah.
Yeah, so the proof of fund, whatever you're coming for in Canada, you will require proof of fund. The only time you would not require proof of fund is if you're coming on a work permit. And if that company has done this, what I just mentioned, the LMIA process, which is LMIA, the labor market impact analysis, if you already have that and you have a job offer, then you don't need proof of fund. That's the only time you don't need proof of fund. But every other time, if you're coming as a student, you need proof of fund to show that you can take care of you and your family members. If you're coming as a permanent resident, you need proof of fund. And the proof of fund depends on your family size. So all that information is available on the CIC website, which is the Canadian Immigration website. It's public information. So you do your calculation yourself depending on your family size. And your family size will include you, your spouse, and the number of children you have.
So can you give a range? So can we say for 10 million to 50 million, for proof of fund? Can you just give
Yeah,
a
so
wide range?
the exchange rate now is crazy. The exchange rate,
Yes, it is.
I don't, if I can just do a quick calculation. When I
Give us
came,
in Canadian dollars. They will do the calculation themselves.
okay, sure. So in every year it increases. When I came, it was
Okay.
$23,000 for my family of four, because I said I have two kids
Wow.
and my husband, so it was 23,000. But now I think it's almost 25 for
Okay.
a family of four. For one person, I think it's about 13 or 14,000 if it's just you. But also
Okay.
keep in mind that if you're coming to Canada, if you apply for PR, regardless of whether your family is coming with you or not, you have to include them in the calculation for proof of fund, whether or not they are
Okay.
arriving with you at the same time, because they
Okay.
might come to meet you at any time, right? So the government wants to
Mm.
be sure that you can take care of them when they come with you. So even if they are not landing with you immediately, you still need to include them in the calculation of proof of fund.
Okay. That's fine. Um, what's the difference? Someone is asking what's the difference between CFA in Canada and CPA?
Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I said someone is asking a question. What's the difference between CFA in Canada and CPA in Canada?
So I think CFA is Certified Financial Analyst. That's a different
Correct.
designation that you can and I wanted to speak to that I wanted to talk about the professions that finance professionals can go into the most when
Yeah.
they come to Canada. The first one
Yeah.
is to be an accountant. You know, accountant has a very straight pathway, and you would always want
Yeah.
somebody to balance your book, and you can grow in that pathway. Or the
Yeah.
other part is financial analyst or business analyst. So that's where your CFA
Mm.
comes, right? I've
Mm.
not even seen too many people with CFA, right? But CPA is the accountancy body. And so if you have CPA,
Mm.
that's an embodiment. You can decide that you want to specialize in financial analysis or business analysis, because the world is going technical now, right? It's all
Yeah.
technology now. So to be able to
Yes.
analyze your big data, you need someone who is able to do spreadsheets, do
Yeah.
reporting, plot all your graphs, tell you the movements in your numbers, and explain what
Yeah.
it means. So financial and business analytics is where your CFA comes in, but I've not really seen that as a requirement. But it's an
Mm.
advantage, of course. It's going to further your career and push you really high if you're going to get
Yeah.
it, but not too many people I've seen with CFA.
Okay, so I think I will always say this, it's good for you to have the certification, but trust me, in the business world, it is more of what can you do than the certificate. And I think you should have that at the back of your mind. I think you being valuable, you having the ability to solve particular problems, will always trump having a certificate and you don't have the requisite or necessary skill to accompany the certificate. So it's okay for you to put your focus on getting the certificates, but most importantly, make sure you're building your skill as well. She has said a lot of things that I don't know if you people are paying about. The analytics market is something that is growing and booming. And you see what I've realized. I know I see this and they're like, I'm kind of sentimental. Yes, I am. I actually think that we should be at the forefront of business analytics. We should be at the forefront of data analytics. And why do I say that? It's because that's what we are trained to do as accountants, as finance professionals. We analyze the data in the business. Just that in the past, we've only analyzed, limited amount of data, and usually they are financial data. But the truth is that we are the ones that understand how each aspect of a business interacts with each other in order to achieve the desired goal, for a company. So the question is, in my own opinion, I see this kind of positions as new jobs that are available to an accountant. Because whether we like it or not, this automation that is happening in our industry is going to reduce the number of traditional roles that will exist. Yes, there'll still be need for accountants, but not at the same quantity that it used to be needed. So the question you need to ask yourself is that, okay, so who is going to be displaced? And if the person is displaced, what would the person do? And that's why I actually even encourage, especially young people, that's just starting out their careers, try and look at these other new jobs that are emerging for our industry. Try and build your competence on it so that in the long run, you are relevant, you are well positioned, and you also get to enjoy first adopter advantage. Before, if the market is flooded, you've already become a star, you are rooted, you are able to use the skill. So I will always say this, and it's a skill also that makes you marketable. So pay attention to it. Like now, I know we'll be starting a data analytics class for finance professionals in by I think by this Saturday, and trust me, and we've had good track records for people that have attended the course. The funny thing is that until I started this conversation with you, I'd even forgotten that we have a techie accountant that went to Canada. She went through the PR route, and you see, in less than 1 month, she got a job as well. And that's because before she left, at least I had a close relationship with her. I remember she took our becoming a techie accountant course. She took our data analytics course, and on her own, she tries to work on data, and things like that. So the point is that by the time she got to Canada, and I think she knows how to sell herself also. Let me also add that as well. She was able to sell herself. And I was just so surprised that we didn't. Aminat, I'll never forget her. Aminat, in fact, let me tell you one thing. After she finished her techie accountant, becoming a techie accountant, I think then she did not even have a job. I remember her reaching out saying that she just wants to, that we should just give her a remote job to do. Then I remember that we were working on a big audit. Then I remember that we gave her the assets. She was the one that had to work on the non-asset current schedule and things like that. The point is that she just kept building on herself continuously. When she did data analytics course also, she was just like, please, can you give me some data? We gave her some pointers as to where she can get data from. And, she got an opportunity also to work with an audit firm. I doubt they were even paying her, but she's smart. She had a goal. Her goal was that by the time she arrives in Canada, she wants to be able to work as a finance professional. She does not want to do all those odd jobs or all those on the stop jobs. So she made sure that she equipped herself with the right skill. Now, the funny thing is that she's not chartered, because I can see a lot of people are just fixated on being chartered. She's not chartered. I'm sure that now that she has gotten a job, probably she'll now start a professional, certification there and things like that. So I just thought to share the story to give you a practical, will I say, application to everything that Ivy has been saying. Okay, I think we have another question again. How can recruiters be of help in finding a new migrant get a job? I don't know. I think that the question is not properly couched, but Ivy, I'm sure you can speak to that.
Yeah, I actually, the question is actually properly couched, and whoever asked that question actually knows probably a little about Canadian job market, because recruiters in Canada it's just, they are the owners of almost the job market. So who are recruiters? They are like professional headhunters who look for people for companies, and they collect a commission from the company for that professional that he found. It's a very big market. I actually used a recruiter to get the job that I found when I came into Canada. So and networking, let me just chip that one in here now. Networking is very, very big in North America. That's all. Networking is not it's not like our own in Nigeria that you have to know somebody to enter. You know how we do it now. It's different. Networking is that you have to make yourself available by what? Probably by joining professional immigrant networks, by joining employment services, make yourself known, sell yourself, engage in like mentorship programs and relationships. We have those programs that help you to integrate into the job market. And so when you do that, you come across people who know recruiters personally, and they are able to give your resume to a recruiter, for example. Or maybe you don't know anybody like me. From Nigeria, I started to work with people because I did a lot of pre-arrival services from Nigeria. When I was in Nigeria, I did a lot of pre-arrival services program that was hosted in Canada, but for people who have not arrived Canada. And so those programs will tell you what you need to do, how you need to build your resume, how you need to network using LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like gold, honestly. Because in LinkedIn, while I was in Nigeria, I met a guy who is Indian. He's a CPA. And so I told him that I was moving to Canada with my family and I'm in finance and I'm working towards my CPA. I didn't have my CPA at the time. And then he sent me a list of like 80 recruiters with their email addresses and their phone numbers. I don't know this guy from anywhere. I just found him on LinkedIn and chat him up. And I cleaned my LinkedIn profile because there's an appearance that your LinkedIn profile should have as a professional. Yeah. All this information I got from these pre-arrival service programs, which are free, that the Canadian government offers to foreign nationals who intend immigrating to the country. And so once I got that list, that was where I was able to schedule interviews even before I arrived. And so once I arrived, I was already going for an interview. I think maybe 3 days or afterwards I arrived. I went for an interview with a recruiter. You have to sell yourself also. They ask you how much you want to earn. You tell them how much you want to earn. You know, this thing is about your approach. You know, you have to be able to see far above what is on the ground. Like, don't listen to all the noise. You know, just look ahead and believe that you can get it. You know, and you will get it. And before I went for that interview, I actually had a meeting with another person I met on LinkedIn. While I was in Nigeria, he's a CPA. He invited me for lunch. We went for lunch. He told me how much a CPA earns in Canada. Wow. And so I had my expectations set when I was going for that. And so once I went for the interview, the recruiter, I submit my resume. They ask me what kind of roles you're looking for. You tell them what kind of roles. They'll ask you if there's any specific industry you're looking at. You tell them what. And then if there's anything that comes up on their server, they reach out to you to let you know that this is available. They tell you how much it is. And then they schedule the interview with the company if you're interested. And so my first job was actually a contract job that I did. When I started with my company, I think it was a 6-month contract because it was for a project that they hired me for. So I worked there, but this is how you need to prove yourself, right? Yes. And if there's anything I've learned in Canada, we Nigerians or we Africans are very, very hardworking. You see Africans in Canada, I don't know about any other country, but in Canada, we always thrive because we've come from this very difficult situation into almost this simplified environment. So we're almost like, what is happening here, right? And these people are like, what is, you know, I worked like my normal Nigerian self, and my CEO at the time told me, you need to just take 1 day off. Like, what can we give to you? I'm like, what can you give to me? You know, it's just you just be yourself. We're very hardworking people. And it's not like you're trying to impress anyone. You're just being yourself. But for them here, they like to relax, you know, they like to enjoy, you know, but this is how we have always worked, you know, so we're like, why do I have to rest or, you know, I have to work? And so that was how I stayed in that company. My contract got extended by 1 year, and then they made me permanent. And then I think it was 2 years back, they promoted me to management level. I've been in the company that I joined from the first time I came into Canada, and I've just been moving high and high. And so that's what it is. Yeah, exactly. So recruiters play a very big role in helping you get a job because they are able to source those jobs from the company. You don't pay them anymore. The company pays them directly for your contract people, right? Sometimes the company straight out pays them, and then the company pays you directly from their payroll. But recruiters are very big in helping you to get into the job market.
Okay, Dari, thank you for that brilliant question. Not for a novice like me. So there's another question. Is there any age limit to migrating to Canada? Is there?
So it depends on the program you want to come through. For Express Entry, the program I came through, I think I was 30 years old. when I
Okay.
applied. So maybe you calculate my age now. But I was 30 years old when I started the process
Yeah.
to immigrate to Canada. And so
Yeah.
once you're a certain age for express entry, your chances of getting invited to apply starts to reduce. Each year you
Okay.
turn a new age, your points drop
It
by 5 points.
reduces.
Yes, because it's a point-based
Whoa.
system. Yes.
Okay.
So people who are more like over probably 35, I would
Mm.
say if you think of coming through the permanent residence route,
Mm.
and I don't know if it's only finance professionals I'm talking about, talking to
Yes, you are. Yes,
only
only
finance.
finance professionals. Yes, please.
Okay, because they recently launched a new category for a few professions that they are looking for. Finance
Okay.
is not part of that. And so
Okay.
this is just finance. If you're not able to go through the express entry because your points would not be at par, and what has
Mm.
happened with the express entry system is because of COVID, there's a lot of backlog now. For 2 years,
Mm.
nothing happening. And so the pool just kept accumulating and accumulating, and they are trying to walk through it. So it's going to take a while to clear, right? So the
Mm.
points, the invitation points now is very high. And
Yeah.
so for you to be able to get invited, you have to be very young, maybe between 26 and 28. You have a master's, you
Yeah.
have very high English skills, you have maybe over 3 years of work experience, which a lot of us might not have, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. But there are other programs that provinces offer. Provinces like Saskatchewan, Ontario even has their own programs that they offer. Those ones don't have any age limit. You're able to
Okay.
apply to them at any age. And then the other option that people look through also is coming to school in Canada. Because if you come to school
Mm.
in Canada, you're able to, number one, come with your family members. Your spouse
Mm.
is going to get an open work permit. So they are able to work while you're schooling. If
Mm.
you're married, once you're done with your school, if you've gotten a school that offers postgraduate work permit, you're able to
Mm.
get postgraduate work permit for the duration of your studies. So if you had
Yeah.
come here to study for like a 2-year master, you're going to get an equivalent of that in work permit. Postgraduate work permit is what is called for 2 years. And so
Mm.
once you work for 2 years, then you're able to apply for PR. So it's a
Okay.
pathway that goes like that if you come through school, right? So these are the options for people who are already past, maybe I would even say 30, just because the points
Yeah.
are really now in the pool. So if
Low
you're
at
past
that point.
30, yes, exactly,
Mm.
you can consider these other options.
Okay, that makes sense. So I think we actually budgeted 1 hour. I'll just accommodate 2 or 3 more questions so that we don't take too much of our time because I also need to run. I was actually in the middle of a class and I had to excuse myself to make this happen. Um, so first question, someone says he or she is in a skills level for ICANN, just one paper to complete the final stage. So the person is asking if he or she should complete the ICANN, if it will give, okay, if it's going to give the person any competitive edge, when it comes to writing CPA, would there be some exemptions? Or since the person wants to move to Canada, should the person just drop ICANN and just commence ACCA or CPA? What do you advise?
Okay, so like you said, there's no certificate that is wasted. So if you're
Yeah.
already at the tail end of your ICANN, you want to complete that. And let me just drop it in here that ACCA and CPA no longer have an MOU. And so if you,
Wow, what
yeah,
happened?
we have no idea. We just received an email. I think it
Ah,
was in 2021 or 2022 April. I can't remember which of the years, but they no longer have and ACCA was really upset, as you would expect, because it's a
yeah.
global professional body, right? Yeah,
Yes.
so they no longer have that MOU. And so if you have ACCA, you're almost writing the same
Useless.
papers as someone who has an ICANN or
I can.
CA or something. Yeah, so
Okay.
but there's exemptions if you're an internationally trained professional. You're going to have some
Okay.
exemptions for CPA. So you're not starting from the scratch.
From ground zero. Yeah.
Yeah, complete your ICANN and then you so that you can get those exemptions, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to complete your ICANN to get the exemptions. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have your first client for you here. Someone is asking, please, can you give directions on how to access those pre-arrival services? Ivy is just about to get her license. As I said, you are going to be our first client. And why I recommend that is because, see, she's living it. She's not a consultant that went to read what is in a book and is not trying to help you apply theoreticals. But the point is that our life is our experience, our journey so far also, speaks directly to the services that you need. And I think she will be in the best place to actually provide those services to you. And she'll definitely not lead you astray because she's a finance professional herself. So at this point, I want you to, can you please share your LinkedIn profile link on the chat box so that everybody can connect with you? So that everybody can connect with you. Okay. On YouTube, okay, there's a question on YouTube. How can a chartered accountant, I can get CPA qualification? I think that's what she has said. Now, another question I'll ask you is that to get the CPA qualification, do I need to be in Canada? Do you understand? I know you've talked about Canada, Ontario, but assuming I just want the normal CPA Canada, do I need to start? Can't I start here in Nigeria, then probably go over there to complete, or speak more to that, please. Thank you.
So CPA Canada, like I said, it's not a standalone body in itself. All the other provinces report into it. So you cannot be a member, you can't directly be a member of CPA Ontario without being a member of one of the provinces. So I'm a member of CPA Ontario, for example. What I'll be looking at, the requirement I'll be looking at meeting is the requirement of CPA Ontario. That's what I'll be looking at. And then CPA Ontario now reports into CPA Canada. And for CPA Ontario, they've said, in order for you to apply, you have to be either residing in Canada, moving to Canada, or in the process of immigrating to Ontario. Now, some other CPA provinces might have other requirements where they allow you to write the CPA exam from Nigeria. I'm not sure. But if you're getting a CPA in that province, that's where you can practice. It's not transferable, right? So if I get a CPA, if I get CPA Saskatchewan, I can't claim my CPA. I can't use CPA Saskatchewan to work in CPA Ontario. That's what it is. Even though we are all members of CPA Canada, right? So it has to be the province. So if you look on the province website, they all have this information about eligibility for information and ensuring accountants. So if you look at those exemptions, you'll be able to find which one applies to you the most.
So as I said, also, if you, for some reason, let me be nice about this. For some reason, you're unable to get about this research, I'm sure Ivy will be willing to provide this information to you at a fee. So reach out to her. She will definitely help you get all the information.
Let me just also
probably.
Let me also put it out there. I'm not charging a fee because I'm not licensed yet, so I'm not supposed to be charging a fee.
So guys, did you just hear that part? You better take advantage before she gets her license and she makes you pay for her license. So that please connect with her and take advantage of that. She just said she's going to offer some services for free. So if you are really serious, so please also don't waste that time if you're not serious about it, because she's quite a very busy person. I know the kind of negotiation that went into having her be part of this program at this moment. So I want you guys, to respect her time and also respect the access that, she has given to you as well. Okay. I don't think we have any other question. Guys, do you have any other question? I don't have any other question. Kemi, do you have any other question, please?
None.
None.
Sorry,
okay.
So just before you go, I just wanted to mention that all of this information that I've said here,
Yeah,
there are things that you can easily Google and get, like the CPA I'm talking
absolutely.
about now. You can easily
Yeah,
Google and get even
yeah,
even the PNP immigration for different provinces and express entry. All those things are things that are online that you can Google and get that information. So please Google and check, look up the information. If you want to
yeah,
immigrate, you have to be ready to do a lot of research and learn,
yes,
as you go along the way on your own, because it's a lot
yes,
of things, a lot of questions you're going to have. So please make sure you've done all your research before you ask any
yeah,
question, if you have to, because if you've already done all your research, maybe you don't even need to ask any questions, right?
yeah, yeah, true. So there's a question I had missed, and Oluwatosin brought it to my attention. Saying taking a graduate certificate course in business management or business analytics will aid my knowledge in the general business operations and improve my business acumen. Taking that study pathway, okay, will taking that study pathway affect my career as a finance professional?
I think that's a question for you, Tony. Is that a question for me? You're the
Yeah.
you're the certified data analyst. Yeah.
Yes, it will, and it has its own career path as well. But the thing about business analytics is that it sets you up in, I think, more in the management space, in management role thereabout henceforth. So yes, yes, it does. And another thing you should know about places like Canada, US, is that they specialize a lot. Unlike in Nigeria, we don't really specialize as much. You can see someone um in Canada that the only thing they've done is business analytics all their life, and they just grow, from one rank to another. And so they do a lot of specialization there. And I said that's because they have more bigger companies than we have in Africa. And that's why they do a lot of specialization, because it's not feasible for one person to be in business analytics and the person is still doing financial analytics as well. That's why they just try to specialize. So you need to really ask yourself the question, what do you really have flair for? And if you want to be in Canada, trust me, you need to pick a path that you're willing to specialize in. You cannot be you cannot have the varied um, areas of experiences like I have. You can't have that. Yeah. So I think that would be my response. Do you have anything to add, Ivy?
Yeah, so I would just say, yeah, you're right. Business analyst and financial analysts are separate. Like even in my
Yes.
company where I work, we have
Yes.
business analytics and we have financial analysts. So it's very
Yeah.
separate. But as a finance professional, you can work in either of these fields.
Very true. Yeah.
And I just wanted to drop also that it's possible for you to find yourself in a different department, still within
Hmm.
finance, but a different department, right? Given the opportunity. And I think it would allow you grow more if you make yourself available to experience different departments within finance. So for example, for me, I started out coordinating, of course, a finance project. I moved into financial reporting. I was doing all the reporting, all the month-end close company reporting and all that. And then I moved, and then this opportunity came. I was approached. I was actually tapped on the back to go into the credit department by my supervisor because she thought I had very good interpersonal skills. And that was how I found myself now in the position where I manage 7 people in my role, right? So it's and what she explained, because she's white, I would say it's very important that you interact with the people who have always been here and who know the way things are. Very important.
Yeah.
Come here and stay in your community of your Black, Nigerian, or Ghanaian or African community. You have to be able to. You have to be open to interact with people because that's how you grow.
Yeah.
So she told me that it's actually if you're looking at yourself growing into a position of CFO or CEO, you have to have touched different departments within finance because
Very true.
that's a more rounded finance professional as against staying in just one path where you're growing. So it's possible for you to grow within that one path but someone who is going to grow into that overall C-suite level, which is a managerial final like CEO or CFO, is someone who is more rounded, who has gone round this department, right? And so, of course, I jumped at the position, right? Because I never thought I would even be in like credit supervisor, but I jumped at it because I'm like, oh yeah, so why not?
Oh, thank you for a wonderful time, Ivy. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being truthful also. And thank you for the wealth of knowledge you've shared with us. Guys, what do we say to our panelists? Have you found this webinar useful? So I'm looking at the chat box. Now is for you to give us our feedbacks. And we'll soon end anyway. So guys, I'm waiting to see what are your responses. Did you find this very useful? I actually found it useful, even though I'm not going to Japa, but I still found it useful. But I found it useful. So at least when it comes to Canada now, I know what to say. I know what to expect and things like that. So thank you so much again, Ivy. As I said, thank you for your time and happy Independence Day to you because you're not a citizen. So yes, to you.
Thank
To
you.
you. Yeah. So please, guys, please make sure you connect with Ivy on oh, someone is saying that thank you so much, Ivy. We would have paid so much for this on a normal day. That's very true. It's actually a lot of people would have paid you. They would have made you pay for this, whether you like it or not. So thank you for your time. And by the way, I'm not even sure I introduced myself anyway. So for the ones that don't know me, my name is Tony Olufo, and I'm the founder of the Techie Accountants. And it's a pleasure hosting this event this evening and connecting with every one of you as well. Thank you so much. And if you want to have a catch up of this webinar, it's going to be on our YouTube page. And please share with people as well. Help us to reach out to people, let them know the good work that we are doing. I'm sure if you go to our YouTube, you'll see a lot of very useful resources there. I think sometime back we had that of UK, and we have some other useful resources, career advice and tips like that. Please, if you like what we do at the Techie Accountant, help us propagate the gospel that we are preaching, at the Techie Accountant. Share with your friends, share with your colleagues, share with your brothers, share with your younger ones, and let's stay connected, basically. So, guys, thank you very much. And at this point, I think I can say my goodbyes, and I do have a good evening. For us here, Ivy, do have a good afternoon. Because the sun is sun is still very hot and it's actually hot today. So thank you so much, Ivy. It's good seeing you again. It's been a while. And definitely we should stay more connected. So
yeah, sure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. Bye guys. Thank you.
Bye.